Very good morning, all of you. Today we are here for the grade 12th chapter Enemy. So, this is the third part I am telling you. Here, for the recapitulation, I need to tell you the characters, that is Dr. Sadao, his wife Hana. They both were Japanese. They both met in America for their studies at professor's house. After marriage, they have two children. They were having the servants, gardener and Yumi, the caretaker, and later on they met the American person at the shore whom they treat. So when they called Yumi, Yumi replied that the baby was ready for sleep and she must put it to sleep before accompanying her. Hana held the baby and went to the bedroom next to the nursery with Yumi. Yumi spread the sleeping quilts on the floor and laid the baby between them. Hana led the way as they walked fast towards the kitchen. Two servants in the kitchen were scared after hearing their master's words regarding the injured man. The old gardener, who also worked as a servant, was pondering over the news and pulling the hair from the upper lip. The old gardener spoke bluntly to Hana. He said that Sadao must not treat the injured white man. He reasoned that the man was destined to die. Firstly, he had been wounded by a gunshot, and secondly, the rocks of the sea wounded him further. If Sadao healed the wounds given by the gun and the sea, then the gun and the sea would treat them as enemies and seek revenge. The gun represents the Japanese army and the sea represents the country of Japan. If they treated the enemy, they would be punished by Japan. Hana politely said to the gardener that she would pass this message to Sadao. He was frightened, though not superstitious. Like the old man, she thought that helping an enemy could never be good for them. Still, she asked Yumi to get hot water into the room where the injured man was kept. Hana went inside first and moved the partition to one side. Sadao was not there. Yumi followed her and kept the wooden bucket on the floor. As she saw the white man, his thick lips folded and the expressions on her face indicated her determination. She said firmly that she had never washed an American man and that she could never wash one who was as dirty as that injured man. There was so fierce a look of resistance upon Yumi's round, dull face, that Hana felt unreasonably afraid. After all, if the servant should report something that was not as it happened. Yumi resisted strongly. Her dull face had a dangerous look of protest which scared Hana. She was worried that if the servants reported something different from what had happened, they could land into trouble. Hana changed her expressions to respect and said very well. She explained to Yumi that they intended to bring the unconscious man into the senses and then they would hand him over to as a prisoner. Yumi said that she was not concerned about their plans. She added that she was a poor person and it was none of her business to know about their plans. Hana said to Yumi that then she should return to her work. Yumi left the room at once. Hana was again left alone with the white man. She would have been afraid to remain there all alone, but her anger on Yumi's first firm determination made her stay in the room. Hana said with anger that Yumi was a stupid person. She said that it was just an injured man. Hana was full of anger at the refusal by the maid. Yumi that without thinking, she opened the blanket in which the man was injured. His chest was bare. Hana took a small clean towel, dipped it in the steaming hot water and washed his face. The man's skin was rough due to being exposed to the sun. but it had a good texture and he must have been very fair as a child. Hannah kept on cleaning the man's upper body as she had these thoughts. She did not like the man as he was not a child anymore. She did not have the courage to turn him over and thought of Sadao. Her anger was decreasing and she started becoming restless. She stood up and wiped her hands with the wrong towel, as she did not want the man to freeze due to the cold weather. She pulled the quilt on him. He had opened on the door. He had been on the door, and when she called him, she called Sadao. He opened the door. Hannah saw that Sadao was carrying his surgeon's emergency bag and was wearing his surgeon's coat too. He was prepared to operate upon the injured man. Hannah asked Sadao that has he decided to operate the man? Sadao replied that he had decided to operate him. He turned his back to Hannah as he did not want to object to his decision. Sadao started his work. He opened a sterilized towel on the floor of the tokonoma alcove and placed his surgical instruments on it. Tokonoma alcove means, the word toko literally means floor or bed, and ma means space or room. Tokonoma is usually called alcove. It is a part of a room where things are displayed. Hannah obeyed and went to get the towels. She was curious as Sadao was operating upon the injured man. She thought that the blood from his wounds would or can stain the fine mats which covered the floor of the room. So she got some rough mats from the backyard which were used by the gardener to cover the delicate shrubs from the cold weather. By the time Hannah reached the room, she saw that the blood had already flowed through the bandage of the man and had stained the mat beneath him. Her effort was waste, futile. On seeing the stained mat, Hannah cried that the mat had been spoiled. Sadao agreed that the mat had been ruined in such a manner which indicated that he was not bothered by it. Sadao ordered Hannah to help him turn the man over. She obeyed him and then Sadao started washing his back. Hannah told Sadao that Yumi had refused to wash the injured man. Sadao asked her that did she wash him. He did not stop cleaning him. He made fast small movements of his hands as he cleaned him very carefully. Sadao was engrossed in work, busy in work, and he did not seem to hear Hannah at that moment because the priority was to clean the man. Hannah wondered that Sadao was not bothered who the injured man was. He was only concerned in performing the work well. Sadao told Hannah that she would have to inject the injured man with a substance that induces insensitivity to pain. Hannah replied that she had never done that earlier. Sadao said in a haste that it was very easy. Sadao said, and he removed the packing and now the blood started flowing faster. He looked at the wound with the help of the bright surgeon's light fixed on his forehead. He announced that the bullet was inside the man's body. He wondered also that how deep the wound made by the rock was. He said that if the wound was not very deep, then he could get the bullet out. He added that the bleeding was not from the surface of the skin, which meant that the wound was deep and the man had already lost a lot of blood. When Hannah saw Sadao inspecting the wound, she could not see the site and so she coughed. Sadao looked at her and saw her face was yellowish in color like the color of sulfur. Sadao reacted and ordered Hannah not to faint. He did not stop his work and continued inspecting the wound. Sadao said that if he stopped, the injured man would certainly die. Hannah put both of her hands on her mouth, jumped up, and ran out of the room. Sadao heard her vomiting in the garden, but he continued with his work. As Sadao needed Hannah's help to operate the man, he thought that it would be better for her to empty her stomach so that she would not feel uneasy time and again. He was remained that Hannah was seeing an operation for the first time, and it was not pleasant thing to see. Sadao was irritated and impatient as his wife was under stress, and he was not able to help her even due to the man who lay under his knife. He was just like a dead person. Sadao thought that there was no reason for him to make efforts to save the man because there was no reason for him to live. Sadao became merciless and started working fast. The injured man moaned in his state of unconsciousness, but Sadao kept on working without paying attention to the man's pain. Sadao said to the injured man that he was free to cry in pain. Sadao was not concerned that the man was in pain. He did not want to operate him and did not have any reason for doing so. Hannah entered the room and asked Sadao for the anesthetic which she had to administer to the injured man. Her voice was clear, which shows that now she was prepared to help him. Sadao moved his chin to guide her to the bottle anesthetic. He added that it was good that she came as the man had started to gain consciousness and it was important to sedate him. Hannah held the bottle and some cotton in her hands. She asked her what she was supposed to do. He told her to put some anesthetic on the cotton and to place near the nose of the man, nostrils. He did not stop his delicate work and added that she should remove the cotton when the man started to breathe badly. Here I am ending this part and will meet you in the next. Thank you. Have a nice day, you all.